back to question 27, as I restated, to restate that. When we ask about all these different questions, financial and the impact on programs, there is an increase. And so from that, the research in particular, based on what both the parents, staff, and community say, later start, I believe, is what this school district should do. And I think it's the right thing to do for kids. I think we have a lot of support out there. There's always going to be people that don't support that, but the overwhelming majority do. And we've been having, I haven't been a part of the discussion for 10 years, but the discussion has been going on that long. I think it's time now to move on it. And then it's just how do we put that messaging out there? And how do we do it?
And did you have a timeline that you had in mind for?
Well, that's question 3.
Sorry.
So I'm trying to stick with
No,
that.
we are not. We are not. My apologies. And I don't feel like Amy and
then I said it at the last meeting.
So I think, Amy, you didn't have an opportunity to answer number 2.
Well, no, I think that my side outcome is definitely, we have to move start times. But my desired outcome, and this is, I want to do it. I feel we're blessed with a board that has a lot of experience and a lot of ideas. I want to do it in the best way possible. I promised myself I would come here with no preconceptions. I have, I want to minimize the impact, not only to families, but to staff, to principals in particular, who I think a lot of the planning will fall on. So that's my only desired outcome, is that we implement it and we brainstorm on the best way to do it.
Sandy, do you feel like you had an opportunity to answer that as well? Okay. All right. So really getting down to specifics now, looking at the obstacles and the opportunities. I think I'm hearing all of us say that we think that later start time, and I don't know how specific we've been, but are we saying 8 o'clock, 8:30? I think I heard Dawn say 8:30.
Do you feel like you've discussed the data? Everybody's discussed the data on the question number 3, have the obstacles and opportunities changed? Everybody feels like they've discussed the data piece on that?
That's what we're here for.
Are we
Right.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about number 3.
Right.
Which is the next question. What are the obstacles and the opportunities within this desired outcome? So I'm asking to clarify the desired outcome. Are we talking about a 8 o'clock, 8:30? I'm trying to get a sense of what I'm hearing from the board before we proceed.
This is something that happened over the Christmas break. Since the last meeting, I've been contacted and told that there was at least one board member in the community saying they were willing to go to different times, and what concerned me was that somehow board members have not been all informed of different scenarios with different times. Was there another set of questions I somehow missed from board members going to the superintendent or anyone in support services saying, well, what would be the impact of 8 o'clock versus 8:30 or any of that? Because that was kind of something coming out of the community, and I told community that I didn't want to hear what other board members were saying, but I have a real concern about wheeling and dealing with the community out there for different times based on I don't know what. And so my question is, do board members have more information than I have? And I'm certainly willing to grant that I've forgotten something that may have gone out. A series of questions about comparing times.
I'm not sure where that's coming from because I have not asked and I haven't.
So we haven't received any questions of that nature as far as specific scenarios related to time. The only question I recall we received were the ones from Amy regarding
on the
bus transportation capacity and,
And if
it
it'll
wasn't
hold
in the
on,
briefing that we just handed.
if it's regarding me, I've had several people over the break, literally neighborhood Christmas parties, coming up to me and asking me my opinion, and they've asked me in great detail my opinion. And you know, I think if a community member comes and asks me, I'll tell them, and specifically about implementing a large change for this fall. I was asking information from transportation because I was apprehensive that this fall a large change was possible. And so if that's what you were hearing, I'll be honest, and I always preface the conversation with, I am one of 5. If you're asking, you know, what information I was doing a lot of research over break and trying to come up with an understanding of where I stood. Because when people ask me, I think I should answer where I stand. I think that's my responsibility, but that doesn't mean I would ever communicate that that's what was going to happen. But
So, you say you've done a lot of research, so you have asked staff questions about the impact of different start times?
no, well, so in my little analytical way, I would say, you know, okay, I would literally do the math and say, okay, if we go to an 8 o'clock start time, that moves our release time to about 2:30. So, okay, so what if we added 7th period? Then yeah, you're not getting out till 3:30. Then, okay, well, when is Core 24? I was just on OSBI's website going, okay, when is Core 24? When is that really going to be a requirement so that we have to really think about 7th period? Like, well, it's not quite now. Is it going to be 2017? So I've literally been doing my own little analysis of what time I'm comfortable with saying that I think we can implement. And so if people ask me what I've been up to, I'm going to tell them. But I am always very careful to say this is, you know, my own research, and I want to hear other people. I'm trying to get information, you know, what have you heard, you know, and I'm, you know, in terms of doing things this fall, you know, transportation has constantly said purchasing buses is tricky and hard to do in 9 months, and so I tell people that's the response we've gotten from transportation, you know, where do we park 16 new buses? We don't have a spot for them right now, so we're trying to find out, do we have a spot for them? So if folks ask me, I'm going to definitely respond.
Okay, have you given your analysis to staff for them to look at?
So that question doesn't fall under where we are right now.
Well,
So
I'm saying if we're going to be throwing out numbers and what we want, and it's based on an analysis that one board member has done, I'd like it to be vetted with staff.
And that's what I was doing, and I was making sure I copied Janet and Larry on everything, and actually going through them so that it could all get copies, similar to when we would do questions with the audit committee. You know, when I was doing the audit committee last year, and I would ask a question about the expense, it would get sent to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my understanding, is that if I asked a question, the response would get sent to everyone. It was never a desire to hoard information amongst myself, but I wanted
to give that impression. I'm just saying, if you have a logical conclusion you come to, or something you think that is doable, I would certainly like that to be vetted by staff before we all say woohoo.
Well,
so
I think
this is why we're here.
Yeah.
Right.
We are here today because we don't have an opportunity to discuss it anywhere except for in public in front of all 5 of us together. So when people have asked questions and they've copied me on them, then you all get it in the briefing, so that you know what's being asked and what's being answered. So you should have seen that information previously. I don't remember when the response was.
I think it was the last briefing before winter
On
break.
this one, yeah, I did see
Yes.
it.
So if there are questions that are that need to be published before the next briefing, then I ask Cindy to send them out right away. Otherwise, the general practice has been to just accumulate them, put them in the Friday briefing, and have the expectation that everybody's reading them. So that's the...
Right, but this isn't what I'm talking about. We did receive a copy of this.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is information that was coming to me via community, saying that there were other alternatives, and we haven't had a meeting, staff hasn't given me any further information. So I'm just saying, before we roll along with this is better or that is better, I believe the staff needs to vet it. Okay?
I think conversations that we have in the community are, I think what you're hearing from a community member or several community members, there's another perspective to be shared as well. So I don't know who was involved in the conversation that the community member is reporting, but there's definitely another side to that to hear about. And I don't know who was.
And of course,
talking
my
about
other
it.
concern was, and I'm glad to hear you weren't contacted, but my other concern was how many other board members are being contacted with vague information that I don't have before me in any kind of briefing or report, and all over the Christmas break.
So like I
good
said,
thing I took a trip.
if anybody asks information and gets answered, it goes in the briefing. So absent anything in the briefing,
Right.
it hasn't been asked and answered. So that's why we're here today, to have the opportunity to discuss it. So I think I'm up for what are the obstacles and opportunities within this, and for me,